our practice page, when you scroll down, I mean, obviously it's adorable because it's full of manatees, but otherwise it looks pretty good. It looks pretty normal. There's nothing glaringly obvious that looks wrong with this page. But then when you kind of go into your editing mode, we kind of see where we can be doing things a bit better, makes your content better, and also makes it more accessible, which is what's really important. So the very first example, what we see a lot of is people dropping in images to the page without using an image snippet. And so when you do this, what happens is it will strip some data that we need. It might not function as well within our templates. And then also, if you click on the image that's just dropped into a page like this, you could actually look here on the bottom left-hand corner. It actually is displaying as an H3, which is a heading. And what it should be displaying as is, let's say, a table, because it's built into a snippet. So again, this is all about making your content better and more accessible for people who may be using screen readers and things like that. So for those of you, and I'll just stick to the people in the room unless you wanted to add it to the chat, just so we don't get microphones confused. So if we kind of looking through kind of this first example, what would be your solution to this problem, if you will? Pretty simple. I kind of just told you. Yeah, exactly. Create a snippet. And so what you're going to do is put your cursor as much as you can to the right of that image. You're going to go up to your WYSIWYG editor. And I know that this is a medium image. So I'm going to type the word medium. It's on the left-hand side. So I'm going to click it here. And let's say, obviously, this isn't the best way to add an image to a page, but you can still use it as kind of a starting point. So if you click on it and you actually see the highlighted image icon highlighted, you can click on it. I actually copy the dependency tag that we've already had, so it's great that we're using one. I'm then going to click on this image, and you can follow along with me. All I'm going to do is I copied that and I'm pasting it in, and I'm not leaving this alt text empty because that is a huge no-no, but I'm going to just put a placeholder there. I'm going to go back up to the image because I already saw that I had written a pretty awesome alternative description for this image. So I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it within here. And this looks to me like a pretty good alt text description. So it says, picture of a manatee looking directly at the photographer. So one thing we want to avoid that we do see a lot is using words like picture of or image of when we are describing a picture or an image. That's because for accessibility purposes, if someone is using a screen reader, for example, that's going to be duplicative. It's going to say picture of a manatee. So the only reason why you'd want to describe what's on the page in that context is if, let's say, it's a watercolor painting of a manatee or a charcoal image of a manatee, then you'd want to describe it. But in this instance, it's a picture, it's an image, we don't need to describe that. So for anyone in the room, how would we kind of fix this alt text? Exactly. So what I would do is just delete this, do a capital M, manatee looking directly at the photographer, and then I'm going to click save. So now we have we have a dependency tag being used, our alt text is updated, and it's in an image snippet. That's exactly what we want to see. And you can even see here when you zoom in, if I could zoom, there we go, that even though this is the same image, it's actually appearing a bit larger as the top image. And that's also because it's not used within a snippet and it's not actually being resized the way it should be. It's really important that it is in a snippet as well to make sure that everything looks correct on mobile, tablet, and computers. And we actually have at USF currently, for our visitors to our pages, a little over half is now on mobile. So we need to make sure that all of these images are sized correctly. So again, when in doubt, use a snippet. That's your lesson right there. All right. So we're going to head down to our image grid. This is a very popular snippet, obviously. You're able to have images display across the row in either 2, 3, or 4 images. So that will actually determine the size and spacing of the images in each row. but you were able to add as many rows as you wish. So this is kind of just something to practice and to make your own lives easier. So let's say for this one, I do want 2 images in 1 row, but I want to add 1 additional row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this icon that adds an extra row. And I'm going to then click on the image to add an image, and then I can type in here. So problem with that, and also it doesn't make it as easy. Again, we want to make sure that the image we're placing within this snippet is the correct size, it's the correct formatting. So instead of kind of manually adding an extra row, inserting an image by using the icon and then just typing in text, I'm actually going to remove this row and I'm going to make it really easy for you all. Oops, that was wrong. I'm going to remove this. All you have to do right here when you're in an image grid that's already built out and correct, you could actually just right click, go to row. You can then do copy row and you all can follow along with me. And then all you have to do here, right click one more time, go to row and then do paste row. I'm going to do it after. And there we go. And once I click save, of course, it might look a little odd because it's only 3 images and not, let's say, 4. So it's actually going to make sure that you're copying the correct elements of, again, a default image grid. Make sure that the elements are all correct, nothing has been stripped out, and that the image size is correct within that snippet. So again, that's more of a, we don't see that as much of a mistake, but just a rule of thumb of like, just make it easier on yourself. And as much as you can, make sure that we're copying default elements to make sure that they're all the same moving forward. That one was pretty easy. All right, we're going to head to, these are headers, but we're also going to talk about some grammar capitalization and kind of header usage in this example. So these are our 3 headers. And again, yeah, they're pretty awesome, as you can see in the headings. But what we see a lot of users doing, and again, this is totally normal and natural to do. If they see, for example, that this H3 heading, it is green, oops, excuse me, sorry, it's green and it's all caps. So what we'll see a lot of people doing is also writing out the header with the same style as the heading that's used. But what we actually don't want to do is, for example, write this in all caps. Across the board, even in your text context or text copy, I should say, you really want to try to avoid all capitalization. That again is just not as accessible. So how you want to write headers is just exactly how you would type out a normal heading. Same thing with headings we see a lot is people will put like a colon at the end, which we do want to avoid. And then for this one, for example, like heading 5, it really does kind of just look like bolded text. However, it functions a lot differently. And as you can see here again, down in this path, it indicates on the page what heading level you're at. So again, for accessibility purposes, people who are using screen readers need to know that they are coming across content that is within basically nested header areas. So they need to know what the main topic is in that context, subcategory, et cetera, et cetera. So again, we don't want to use all capitalizations if they're weed whacking outside, and that's awesome. So I'm going to talk a little bit louder. I hope you all could hear me. So no capitalization, write it as basically normal text as you would a heading. We want to avoid colons, and then we want to avoid just adding any extra style elements to a header. Because again, all the style elements are there for a purpose and you don't need to touch it. So on the very first one, which I probably already showed you, can you all let me know maybe what might be the mistake here in this first one? Can anyone tell just by looking at it? So this one's a little tricky. Good rule of thumb, if you need to double check or maybe edit pages that are already created, you can kind of take it back to basics and turn this back into just paragraph or like copy text. And as you can see, it's all in capitalization. So how you would fix this one is just write it as usual. This is a super awesome heading. Am I right? Then you would highlight the text. Then you would go to your H3 and it would do it for you. So on the second one, maybe what's something we would change about this one? Removing the colon. Easy enough. And then this one, is there anything that we notice about this H5 heading that we can edit? Or maybe there's extra style elements? Exactly. So in your WYSIWYG editor, if something is being utilized or used, let's say I'm highlighting a link, my link icon will be highlighted. But for this one, your bold is being used, which again, you don't need it because your heading is going to take care of that for you. And also as another reminder, headings are not for style purposes, they're for accessibility, and they're really to break up your text and your content. So what we're going to want to do with this one is just highlight it, and just all we have to do is remove the bold and see nothing changes anyway. Everything looks great. You didn't have to do anything else with that one. So that was that example. We have plenty of time. Are there any questions on anything we've gone through yet? I'm going to do a little bit more about headers. So
we can clarify.
Yeah.
Catherine says the heading is still all caps. So the second heading, do we want to clarify just like
Oh, Charlotte, can you explain the reason for having H3 as all caps there? Yep.
Okay, so sorry, I'm hearing myself. Okay, so with the headings, basically you want to make sure that the actual text that's being like input on the page is in your regular caps, because that way it's able to be manipulated by different assistive technology. And when a screen reader is reading it, it's reading it with the normal punctuation and capitalization. Stylized, though, we can use our CSS, the cascading style sheets, to make it look like it's in all caps, but still the underlying actual text, like the programmatic stuff, is being conveyed the appropriate way.
And is there a reason why we are able to style it as all caps, but we're telling people not to write in all caps?
So we want to avoid writing in all caps because it could make assistive technology think that it's an acronym or something like that. But when you're styling it, that's not being necessarily conveyed to assistive technology. They're just getting the raw data, which is what they need.
Perfect. Hope that answered that question. Okay, great. All right, so we kind of talked about, that was more so showing you how some people maybe add different spelling and grammar methods or a different type of styling to things like headers and to try to mimic them. And here we're going to be talking more about headers in terms of hierarchy and nesting categories. So here for Honors College admissions, everything looks fine when you first look at it. What you want to do in terms of a heading hierarchy is that you want to begin, it doesn't matter, once again, to emphasize, headers are not for style purposes as much as we want them to be. We love the aesthetic, but we really want to make sure that your main topic on the page is being used. And the first one you're going to be using is your H3. So right now, it's using an H4. So how we would change that is updating this to an H3. And then every kind of nested or subcategory underneath needs to follow H3, H4, H5, H6. So you can't jump from H3 to H5 just because it looks how you want it to look. We really want to make sure that we are, again, alerting those on the page that these different context sections are technically labeled what they should be. So knowing that, how would we update this next subcategory on this page? Right now it's an H5. H4, exactly. We would change this one to an H4. And then how about for these two different types of admission here on the page? What header would we use for those? H5. And again, it's up. Oh, see, here's something else that we noticed. What's up with this header? All caps. So again, we would be updating this. And again, you can use capitalization when it's used in an acronym like this. We want to make sure that, again, it's not used when you were adding or you're not going to be mimicking the heading. Same thing here. I'm sure this is also all capitalization, but we're changing to H5. Pretend that that's written normally. And so that's kind of how it's nested on the page. Again, first category and then all subcategories listed beneath it. Do we have any questions on that? And is there anything else? Yes. Yes, we can. So technically your H1, so the question was, if you couldn't hear it online, which I hope I'm still, yeah, my speaker was weird. So the question was, why do we start with H3? Why don't we start with H1? Great question. Charlotte, can you remind me which one is H1, which one is H2?
Oop, hello again. Oop.
Go ahead.
So within our templates, the H1, you want to make sure you only have one H1 on a page. And so it is reserved right now for the section title. So like where it says common mistakes in that slate color right above the breadcrumbs. And then our H2 is being used by the actual content title as it's referred to in the templates, or the page title where it says common mistakes right there that Grace highlighted. And so you want to make sure then going down within your content, well, it starts with H3. If you're using a different template, like a gallery page template, that one starts at H2 level and then goes down to H3. So it's a little bit, it depends on which template you're using. And if you ever have any questions about it, you can always reach out to us and we can clarify too.
Thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, so this is just something behind the scenes. We know that this is an H1 and this is an H2, and then it's just that it's within the toolbar. The H1 and H2 are still visible, but what we're letting you all know is when you do add headings to your pages, H3 is where is your starting point, and then it continues on. Okay. All right, so this looks similar to that copy above because it is basically the same. So this is all about creating great links. So when you create a great link, what we want it to do is to give it a call to action. And again, when you see right here, click here to learn more about the Honors College admissions, that makes sense to us when we're writing it out. It's like, okay, we're going to give them more information about Honors College admissions. You click right here to learn more about it. But actually, again, for assistive technology, it's not accessible. And we want to be, again, linking to something that is a call to action. So if we were to edit this sentence right here and really put that hyperlink for a call to action, where do you think we would start it? Where would it be? Any ideas? Yeah, exactly. So what we can do, so again, this is already hyperlinked for me. And you know that because when you click on it, it again is highlighted within the WYSIWYG editor. So I'm going to click on it. Can anyone tell me there's another mistake in here? Can anyone tell me in terms of the link? Exactly. So this is not a dependency tag. So that if we see something, honestly, if you see something that looks normal within your URL on a page that isn't linking to something external, that's actually a no-no. You want to make sure that you have what we call a dependency tag. Use the dependency manager to locate the correct link. A dependency tag always has two wiggly brackets, an F, I believe, colon, and then a string of numbers. So that's what you want it to look like. So yeah, exactly. What I did was I just copied and pasted the admissions link. It actually formatted it here, but this isn't where we want it to go. I actually am realizing now as a level 6, I probably don't have access to the admissions link, but I will just show you just another example of like I'll click on Charlotte's page and I'll click insert. There we go. There's the dependency tag that we want. And so I'm actually just going to copy it just so I have it with me. Click save. And then, so the caveat with linking learn more. So it would be fine if we highlighted right here, because, okay, sorry, I'm getting my thoughts together. What you want to do is make sure that whatever you're linking to, that the context around it is basically informing that link. So if you just had, for example, learn more by itself, even though you have this context for admissions and then you just linked it here, it's not providing surrounding context so that the person who's maybe using a screen reader knows what that means. But if you did, for example, highlight learn more about Honors College admissions and made that your link, that's going to be more helpful to a screen reader because you're giving them context surrounding that text. Is there anything else, Charlotte, that I'm missing here? Okay, perfect. Mm-hmm.
is display all the links on the page in an alphabetical list, which is why we want to try to have some context around it. So if someone's going from that, they know where to go. And the reason why just having learned more links in that first example would be fine because they have the ability sometimes to look at the surrounding text within the paragraph. But when it's just by itself in a paragraph, there's no surrounding text. They'd be like, okay.
Yes.
And I suspect that our web pages probably have lots of links that are not dependency tags. Is there an easy way to like track those down and like have a list of them? Or like, should we make plans to like go through all of our web pages and check for them?
I think is it a page product report?
I think there's, we can scan your pages and like turn them into dependency tags in some instances, yeah.
Yeah. So yes, the question was, a really good question was, okay, so we realized we're not really using dependency tags. Do we have to just kind of click through every single link all across our website? So the answer is we can actually run what we call, it's called a dependency scan, and it will actually create dependency tags across the website. Yeah.
We went through. Probably pretty good, but not like.
Yeah, and if you didn't hear Wayne, he was saying, he and I did, again, we probably bugged you all with a million emails. We did that binary migration where we moved your documents and images folder into your website folder, and we actually ran dependency scans on all of them. So again, there might be some extraneous ones that weren't caught, or maybe new ones that have been added since then. So most of them should have been caught if you hadn't added links within the last maybe 6 months. So but yeah, just let us know. You can either submit a support ticket or email us at CMS support, and then we can get that figured out for you.
Yeah, one other question online. Opening in a current window or a new window, which is preferred and when?
So right now, what we are informing our users to do is to, if you have any link that lives within Modern Campus, our USF CMS, you want to open that in the same window. And then anything that is opening externally, so let's say Tampa Bay Times or weather.com, that's going to be opening in an external window. If you're using something, if you're linking to something like a document or something binary, so a PDF or an image, you want that to open in a new window off the bat. I believe that's what we're telling everyone. Okay, so this is going to be the last thing in terms of common mistakes here, like in editing mode on a text page. And then I'm going to show you one other thing just on your backend and metadata that can really help with your SEO. So for this first example, looks fine. So colleges found at the University of South Florida, here are a few of them, and they're numbered 1 to 3. So we see this a lot. And again, this is something where we have a ton of content and you're copying and pasting from a Word doc. So you need to get that content up quickly. But what we found a lot of the time is people kind of formatting their own ordered or unordered lists. So this one, we would call this an ordered list. It's 1, 2, 3, obviously, but it's not using our already, it's not using the tool that we have in the WYSIWYG editor. Once again, accessibility, everything goes back to accessibility. When someone who's using a screen reader comes across this content, it will not alert them if you're not using our numbered list that you are indeed giving them a numbered list. It's just going to read out this context and it's not really going to make a lot of sense. The other thing about this list, a numbered list, or excuse me, ordered, I keep saying numbered, is an ordered list. An ordered list is that this isn't, for example, this doesn't need to be in this order. It's not a checklist. It's not things that you're doing step by step. So really, this should be an unordered list unless you have some other reason for it to be an ordered list. So knowing that, how would I kind of fix this list? What tool would I use? Okay, so which in the WYSIWYG editor, would you use one of these?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, you use this one. Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, and so actually, like when in doubt, so we actually call this a bullet list. If you like when in doubt, you can hover over a tool on the WYSIWYG editor and it tells you what it is. And we have a few fabulous options of different bullets. Some are square, some are circles, some are filled in. So you can really do whatever you wish. So yes, perfect. That's exactly what you do. So you would click here on your bulleted list, and again, it indents it for you. And then again, you would just remove the rest of those numbers if they weren't needed. Let's say this was changed to like top ranked graduate programs by college, then you would use an ordered list. I believe it would be the College of Business, but I don't know. I know they have some great graduate programs. Okay, so kind of knowing that information, heading to our next list, there's a few things that we might change about this. What would be the first thing? Ordered list, perfect. Anything else? Yeah, exactly, using the tool. This is just a straight up dash. So we want to make sure that we are using an ordered list. And again, we have even more options here. Numbers, letters, Roman numerals. I'm going to use numbers here. Oops. And sometimes, yeah, you do have to make sure you have enough space in between so it doesn't add that style again to the text above it. So that's how you would kind of fix this one. It would be your ordered list, and then you would click save. All right, pretty straightforward. I hope those are things that you do now so that we can make them better. Any questions about anything here on this page right now? Yes. Oh, that's a great question, Charlotte. So the question was, oh wait, so the stylized header. Oh, what is it? Or where would you use it? Oh, okay. So the question is, in what context would you use the stylized header component?
Can you just restart on H3? I know it's really containerized. Yes.
The stylized header on H3.
That little horizontal. No, that's completely different. As long as you're going or- Exactly, yeah. Only skip levels when you're like going back up the top, not when you're going down.
Yeah, so the question was, so I think to summarize, when do you kind of move from H3, down to your other subcategories, but back up to H3, right? So yeah, that's again when you kind of are running back into content that is at that same hierarchy, if you will. If that makes sense. So if let's say, for example, on this one, let's say we didn't have honors college admissions or types of admission, we just had like first time in college, transfer admission, international admission, and that's your only three main topics on the page. I would put those all at H3 because one isn't better than the other or at a higher standing than the other.
Doesn't need to be nested under that previous.
Exactly. Doesn't need to be nested. Okay, so this is a very quick something to help with. This is something that we're going to do on the back end to basically help people find our content. So when you're on the page, you're typically going to either be in preview mode up here, looking at what your page looks like in context. Then what we were just in is edit mode, and then the only other thing you're really going to look into, you could look at versions, but you're going to be clicking on what we call properties. And then it's going to actually put you right into what our parameter section. So our title and metadata. So the two things I'm going to talk about are the title and the description. So title is actually what appears here. So this says new tab. What appears on our page would be common mistakes, which is fine. So that is a great first step. What's very sad to see is when a lot of the times if text pages are created by default, this is what it says And it's very sad. So if you have that, try to update it to the name of your page. And like when in doubt, like what's the name of my page? There it is, your content title. You could actually just copy it from down here if it's already set up that way, and then paste it. For the most part, when you're creating new text pages, which is going to be the majority of you, when you create the page, that first modal window, it's going to ask you the name, and that's where it will kind of do it by default. But if you're maybe like rushing through, you got to throw up a page, that's when it'll just kind of say title, and then you kind of move forward and forget about it. So just make sure that your title here and your content title match. But we want to go one step further. So what we're going to do is, this is basically kind of your very granular detail about the page, but we want to kind of expand out just for SEO purposes. So what we like to do is kind of create, so it's your page name, then you can kind of get a bit broader. So let's say for the next thing I'm going to put CMS workshop. So that's basically the website section it's living within. What you're going to do is hold down Shift and then do a backslash, and then it creates that up and down line. I'm then going to write CMS workshops. And then I can either put, let's say, the name of my department or the name of my website. But on my last one here, I'm just going to put University of South Florida. And when I save it, this is what's going to come up at the very top here in my window. Another good reason why you don't want to keep this as title, first of all, zero description, doesn't mean anything. And also, when people go to bookmark your page, because the content is so awesome, they want it bookmarked on their page, it's just going to say title and give them no context. So we don't want them to be bookmarking a bunch of USF CMS pages and just say title, title, title. It's not going to tell them anything. And that'll be very sad. Something else that's going to be important, and something that I'm just learning a lot about too, is, and I know we have a lot of questions about how to improve SEO or your search engine result page kind of grading through Google, for example. We want to make sure, and I know it's tedious, but if you want to kind of rank better, you want to make sure you add a description to every page on your site. At the very least, I would make sure you're updating the description of, let's say, the index page of a website section. You want to make these descriptions include, if you can, a call to action, make them concise, and use any keywords that are being used on the page. So for this page, my description that I came up with is learn more about the USF CMS common mistakes. Let's see if I spell anything correctly. How to avoid them, and best practices to create great content. So that is the description of this page. Again, I wouldn't recommend copy and pasting the same description throughout your website, because again, we wanted to describe the page that the visitor is going to. And we want to make sure that we're really giving them exactly what the page is about and what that content is. Yes. Yes.
Depending on what the search query is, your description may or may not show up. So Google, if Google thinks that your description is capturing what the user searched for, fine, it'll show it. If it scans the content of your page and thinks that something else on your page actually answers the question better than your description, it'll show that chunk of text up there instead.
Yeah, thank you, Gina. Yeah, so basically, if you don't fill this out, you're at the will of Google and what they think is the most important information on your page. So you really want to make sure that you are in control of what shows up on the search engine results page. And the very last thing, which I reiterate over and over again, best practice is to publish both to test and production. That is so you're able to generate test site links. So let's say other constituents in your department can edit things before they're kind of published to production and live on the internet, if you will. And to also make sure that you can fix any edits kind of like in real time exactly how it would look on the page before it's published. So pretty simple. You're going to be, let's say this page is beautiful and it's ready to go. You're going to publish to test. And the next thing I'm going to say, um, it's important for both test and production, but if you do nothing else when you publish, but either to test or production, and I've really gotten the habit of this as well, updating the version description. So this is just a note to you all, but also to us. So let's say, something completely changes within your department and we need to either revert back to old versions of the page, or we really need to know what changed. This version description is just a note to, again, yourselves and us to say, added a new event to the page. Let's say we did that. Cannot spell. So that is something that's going to be really important. And then when you go to your versions, it's going to pop up right there in the note. And it's super easy to know, oh, okay, they added the event. Oh no, the event's canceled. Where is it? If it's a super long page, you don't want to be spending a bunch of time looking through that. And then publishing to production is the same steps, clicking publish. The default publish target is production. And then on the St. Pete and Sarasota Manatee campus, it might say something like test might be in all caps. It's a bit different. And then it might be like USF EDU. That might be production. So it looks a bit different on the Sarasota Manatee and the St. Pete campuses. And then I would say blah, blah, blah. And then I would do publish.